Everyone studying SAS Part 5 will be finished with all of the quizzes today. We'll be finished with all of the quizzes today. So Part 1 and Part 2 are all you need to be ready to take the exam. The other things that you'll see, they are helpful. Hold on here. I'll show you that a little later. But it's about getting it right. So let's get going. Quiz 6. Quiz lesson 6. Which output table does the following step produce? Data, output table, earnings, keep quarter earned. Amount equals 1,000. Rate equals 70.75 times 4. Divided by 4. Or maybe that's per quarter. Do quarter 1. Quarter equals 1 to 4 earned plus amount 1,000 plus earned times rate. And what the buck? All right, let's see. Which output table does the following step produce? So 1,000, do quarter 1 to 4. Earned plus amount plus earned rate. So what is it going to produce? So we're keeping the quarter earned. Which statement is true regarding the iterative do loop? Do index column equals start to stop by increment. The start and stop values can be character or numeric. I don't think so. If an increment value is not specified, the default increment is 0. The index column is incremented at the bottom of each do loop. Index column is not a final table unless specifically kept. How many rows are in the savings output table given the following input table code? Amount is a numeric column. Data, output table, work.savings, input table, pg2.savings. Savings equals 0. Do year 1 to 5. Do quarter 1 to 4. Savings plus amount. Savings plus savings times 0.20 divided by 12. Wow. So 0 plus 250 and then 0 plus 0 times We'll come back to that one. I don't actually know that. What is the final value of year given the following step? Data equals invest, do year. So data output tables invest, do year 2010 to 2019, capital plus 5,000, capital plus capital times 0.3, end. What is the final year of the given following step? The final value of year. Which of the following statements contains the valid syntax? How many rows are in the bike info 2 output table given the following input table? Output bike info 2, input bike info, do month 1 to 3, do week 1 to 4. Bike equals bike plus 2. So 14 and 12. How many rows? Better than I expected, which is bad. We got the first one right. It was B. Quarter 5. The implied output occurs after the do loop. The value of quarter 5 is 5, which is one increment beyond the stop value of 4. Okay. Which statement is true regarding the iterative do loop? Do index columns start and stop by increments. So it's true that the index column is increment at the bottom of each do loop. Our first wrong one. How many rows are in the savings output table given the following input table code? So I didn't put an answer, but it's 4. And let's see why. 4 rows are in the output table. 1 row per each row is in the input table. The implied output is after the nested do loop. So 4 rows are in the output table. Right. So 1 to quarter, 1 to 4. 1 row per each row in the input. The implied output is after the nested do loop. What is the final value of year in the following step? 2020. On the same basis that is one increment behind 2019. So I definitely remembered some of the basic mechanics behind that. Which of the following statement contains a valid syntax? I put B, it should have been C. Do until earnings are less than 100,000. When while or until is used in a do statement, the expression must be in a set of parentheses. Okay, remember that. While or until is used in a do statement, the expression must be in a set of parentheses. In answer A, the index column is missing. Right. In answer C, oh, it was B. It shouldn't have been C. Okay. So if we remember while or until, we know that the do statement is going to need to be in parentheses. So that's a good way of remembering that. How many rows are in bike info 2? So if we look at this, then do week. So we should have this 1 through 4. So it says this should be 6. Let's see why. For each row read in, 3 rows are created, 1 for each month, right? So 2 rows read times 3 months. One row for each month. So 3. And then 2 rows read times 3 months. So it would be these 3 plus these 2, which gives us 6. Is that what it's saying? What is the value of X at the compilation data step? What is the value of X at the completion of the data step? We can do simple math. We can apparently do simple math. Okay. A do until is evaluated at the bottom. The initial value of X equals 15. The do loop occurs one time, even though 15 is greater than 12, because the condition is not checked until at the bottom of the loop. So therefore, 15 becomes 16 before the condition is checked. Right, because we have plus 1. So it's 1. Okay, that makes sense. Which statement is false? I put A when it should have been B. I said the do until loop executes until condition is true. Oh, so we're looking for a statement that's false. So I was right that it was true. The do while loop also executes at least once. The do until loop always executes at least one time because the condition is checked at the bottom, which makes sense. The do while loop executes only if the condition is true because the condition is checked at the top. Okay, good way to remember. Do while conditions are checked at the top. Do until conditions are checked at the bottom. We also know that if there's a do while statement or do until, it's got to be parentheses. These are key things that will help us remember. That's good. Which of the following statements contains a valid syntax? I put D, it should have been C. When combining iterative with a conditional, you cannot use extra words such as and, do, or. The conditional immediately follows the iterative. So do increase 5 to 10 while temperature less than 102. So because this or was in here, we know it couldn't be used. Can't use do, can't use and. So when it comes to valid syntax regarding conditional, iterative to conditional, it gets straight to the point. Do increase equals 5 to 10 while temperature less than. All that extra do and or, that's a red flag. Which output table does the following step produce? And we got this wrong. I put A, should have been B. On the second iteration of do loop, day equals 2 and bike equals 14. Why is that? On the second iteration, day equals 2. I get why day is 2. And bike equals 14. Bike less than 13. So bike is 10. Day 2, bike is 11. Plus 2 is 12. It's 13. I don't get that. At the bottom of the loop, day becomes 3. At the top of the loop, the condition is checked. The value of 14 exceeds 13, so the do loop is over when day equals 3 and bike equals 14. Let's see. So if day 1 is 10, 12. Day 1 is 12. Day 2 is 14. They're saying that by day 3, no, that doesn't make sense. So are they, okay, hold on. If bike is 10, 10 plus 2 is 12. So that's day 1. Day 2 will be 11. 11 plus 2 is 13. That makes sense. And then day 3, okay, I get it. Okay, I get it. All right, let's do that again because you know we like to get it right. All right, now with a perfected, glorified mind here, let's take a look. Which output table does the following step produce? So data earnings, keep quarter plus earned, amount is 1,000, rate is 0.75 divided by 4. Do quarter 1 to 4, earned plus amount plus earned times rate, end. Which output table does the following step? So we know if it's a do loop, what's going to be earned is going to be quarter 5. Which statement is true regarding the iterative do loop? Which statement is true? We're looking for what's true. If the increment value is not specified at 0, if the increment column is incremented at the bottom of each do loop, the index column is not the final table. How many rows are in the savings output table given the following input table? Note, amount is numeric column. How many rows? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. This comes before this. So we're looking at what is at the bottom. We're looking at what's at the bottom. So We know that's 1 to 4. So we know what's going to be the output is going to be 5. I believe. Yeah. All right. Yeah. What is the final value of year given the following step? We know that the do loop is here. So we're going to know the final value of year is going to be what's after that. So it's going to be 2020. Which of the following statements contains valid syntax? We know that anything that is not in parentheses is not right. So none of these are correct. It's got to be in parentheses. How many rows are in bike info 2? So we got our input data, output data, bike info 2, input data, bike info. Due month equals 1 to 3. Due week 1 to 4. Bike equals bike plus 12. So we want to know how many rows are in the output table. So we know that we have 2 rows here, so that's 2. And then in the output, there's going to be 3 months. So we got to do 1 for each month. So 1, 2, 3, and then multiply that, the 2 initial, and it somehow gives us 6. That one still eludes me. What is the value of x at the completion of the data step? Data equals, so data and then test x is 15, due until x is greater than 12, x plus 1. So the way we do this is we know x is 15, we have 15 plus 16, and then end. So we know that this is going to be 16 at the completion. Why do we know it's going to be 16? Because all that doesn't happen until the end of the do loop. So it's not going to be 15. If it's going to be 15, we wouldn't have this. The end would be higher. So we know it's going to be 16, and it's going to run once because 16 is clearly over 12. Which statement is false? Do until loop executes until a condition is true. That's actually correct. Do while the loop always executes at least one time. Now that's incorrect. Do while loop check conditions at the top. That's true. Do until checks it at the bottom. That's true. So we know B is false. Which of the following statements contains a valid syntax? Now this one was correct. Remember, we're looking for the crazy words. And, do, or. So do increase equals 5 to 10 while temperature less than 102. That didn't have any of the craziness. Now this was the bike outputs. So which output table does the following step? We know that bike is 10 and we're going by days. The bike has to be less than 13. So we're going to take 10. On day 1, it's going to be 10 plus 12. No, on day 1, 10 plus 12 is plus 2 is 12. So that's day 1. Day 2, it's going to be 11 plus 12 plus 2 is going to be 13. And on day 3, we're going to have 13 12 plus 2 is 14. And that's why it will be B 14 on day 3. 90. So we messed up here. So this one was, we put C and the correct answer was B. So let's see where we messed up. 4 rows are in the output table, 1 row per each row in the input table. So it's just 4, based off of this basis. So 4 outputs, 4 inputs. So it's as simple as that. Let's make sure we get that right. I like seeing 100. So we know it's quarter 5 because it's always going to be after the iteration. The increments is not specified. Which statement is true regarding iterative do loops? Increment is incremented at the bottom of each do loop. We know this one now is 4 because there's 4 inputs for 4 outputs. We know here this is going to be 2020 because at the end of the final value is going to be after 2020 since 2010 and 2019 are being incorporated. We know do while because of the parentheses showing that it's a valid syntax. Again, we have 2 values here and then 1 value for each month. So 2, 1, 2, 3. So 2 times 3 is 6. So 3 for each one. X is 15. Do until X is greater than 12. We know that this is not quite the end, so we have to incorporate that X plus 1, which gives us 16, which just gives us 16 is greater than 12 in that particular situation. Which statement is false? Do until loop executes until a condition is true. That is true. Do while always executes at least 1 time. Now that's false. Not necessarily. Do while checks at the top. Do until checks at the bottom. Which of the following statements contains the valid syntax? Remember, none of that crazy shit. And, or do are all of those buzzwords. Remember, keeping it simple, do increase equals 5 to 10, while temperature, parentheses, temperature less than 102. Which output table does the following step produce? Data, test. Data, our output is test. Remember our bike is 10. Do, day equals 1 to 7, while bike is less than 13. Bike equals bike plus 12. So we'll take 10 on day 1. It's going to be 10 plus 12. Plus 2 gives us 12. Day 2, we're going to have 12. We're going to have 11. Day 1, okay, so sorry about that. Bike is 10. 10 plus 2 is 12. And day 2, it's going to be 11 plus 2 is 13. Wait, did I do that right? Ten plus 12 plus 2 is 12. Day 2, $11 plus, we know it's this, but hold on, let's take a look at that answer again. No, we don't know it's that. Oh, I thought we put in our answer. We didn't put in our answer. There. On the second iteration of do, day 2, bike 14. At the bottom of the loop, day becomes 3. At the top of the loop, the condition is checked. The value 14 exceeds 13, so the do loop is over with day 3. So day 1, unless day 1 is 10, day 2 is 12, and day 3 is 14. Maybe that's how it goes, because I'm not seeing how the 1 gets in there. So day 1 is 10. Day 2 is 10 plus 2, which is 12. And day 3 is 12, because they build upon each other. Let's get the last lesson done.
Welcome back. To pick up where you left off, select Read.
Yeah, it's definitely a wide table. When using a data step to go from wide table to narrow table, which statement is needed for creating multiple rows from a single row? Going from a wide table to a narrow table. How many rows will be in the final table? Could be narrow, but how many rows will be in the final table if work.airWide contains 3 rows? 12, yeah. I'd say yeah. To include only last row. Hmm. Which statement is false concerning the transpose procedure? Which statements are needed in the proc transpose step? The step for the following example, narrow to wide. By day, variable meal and food. ID day. Variable food meal. By day, ID meal, variable food. Narrow to wide. Well, it says which options needed in the draw. Each. So we got the first one right. That was easy. Second one, when using a data step to go from wide to narrow, which statement is needed to create multiple rows from a single row? It is indeed the output. When going from wide table to a narrow table, output statement is needed to create multiple rows from a single row during the iteration. 3. How many rows will be in the final table if work.airY contains 3 rows? How many rows? I put C, should have been D. Let's see why. For each row read from the input table, work air-wide, 3 rows are created. January, February, March. So that's 3 right there. Because there are 3 rows in the input table, the final table area will contain 9 rows. 3 inputs times 3 created. So 3 times 3 is 9. So 1, 2, 3 times what's so input times output is how many rows you're going to have when you're going from narrow to wide. When using the data step to go from narrow table to wide table, the keep statement is needed to hold values in the PDV. So that's wrong. The retain statement is needed when using a data step to go from narrow to wide. The retain statement holds the values of the PDV across all iterations. The keep statement controls the columns that make it. Okay. Which statement needs to be added to the data set to include only the last row per value of the year? So we know that's going to, I put B, but it should have been C. Due to the by statement, that tells us that the columns contain name first year and the column name last year. The last year will be equal to 1 when last row of year is read in the input table. It is during this iteration that PV contents need to be output. So just by virtue of seeing the by statement, we should know that last year has to equal 1, then output. Which statement is false concerning transpose? I put A, and it should be C. Use a by statement to sort data while transposing. The proc transpose cannot sort data. Data must be sorted before the proc transpose statement. The by statement transposes data within a group. Which statements are needed in a proc transpose step for the following example, from narrow to wide? We put C, it should be D. So we just switched around. So why is it D? The by statement transposes data by grouping of day. The ID statement uses the values of meal as the column headings. So ID changes meal to column headings. And var statement transposes food values into rows. So under the proc transpose, var becomes different foods. rows, food values. ID goes, meal turns into ID, and day stays the same. Which statement or statements are needed to prop transpose from wide to narrow? So we put D, it should have been B, because in this particular case, none of those match. So we will be going from var and these will be becoming breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We'll go into columns. The columns of breakfast, lunch, dinner are transposed into rows. Oh, okay. So var in this particular, from wide to narrow, will turn breakfast, lunch, and dinner columns into rows. Whereas var will turn a column into rows. Okay, so that makes sense. Columns into rows. ID is meal. Meals are groupings. ID is groupings. Var, column into rows. And by, day and day. Which of the options is needed to prop transpose statement to rename the underscore name column as shown in the output table? So the correct answer was B, simple. Name equals meal. It wouldn't be D, rename equals meal. So it's just name for meal, 1-to-1. Well, not 1-to-1, it would just be name. The name option specifies the name of the column in the output table that contains the name of the column that's being transposed. The default name is C, but I would think that would mess you up. If that says name, why would that not be A? But it's the name option. We got to look at it as the name option equals meal. Name equals option. It specifies the name of the column. Because it's asking us which option. Which option is needed to prop transpose a statement to rename whole columns as shown? So out equals meals 2. And she got C right. So it's in a particular situation like this, meals 2. So if we have this as meals, we can assume the out is meals 2. Since at the output table, that's going to be meals 2. So rename column 1 equals day 7, and that's how you put that 1-to-1 right there. So let's try that again. It is a wide table. This is the output. Turn multiple from a single. 1, 2, 3 times the output and the input. So 3 times 3 is 9. Since they each have outputs. When using data step, go from narrow table to wide table to keep statement. No, it's actually a retain statement. Which statement needs to be added to the data step to include only the last row per value of year in the output table? So again, if last, the by statement's the big thing here. If last dot year equals 1, then output. Which statement is false concerning transpose procedure? So columns are transposed into the rows. We found that out. By default, numeric columns are transposed. Use a by statement to sort data while transposing. That's incorrect. The by statement does not do that in transpose procedure. Which statements are needed to transpose the step from the following example? from narrow to wide? Well, we know that day is going to be by because that's going to stay the same. We know that ID equals meal. So meal is going to turn into breakfast, lunch, and dinner because that's just the type of meal. And then var is food. And the food is just going to be the column that's going to go into rows. Which statements statements are needed in the prop transport step for the following example from wide to narrow? Same rules apply. Since there's no one-to-one analog for any of these, then it's just going to be variable breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And those are going to become rows. Which option is needed to the prop transpose statement to rename underscore name column as shown as the output table? It's a simple option of name equals whatever it is, meal. And then in this particular situation, we know that the input table is meal. So we know the output table's got to be named something different, so it's going to be meals 2. And in this particular case, we can rename equals parentheses whole 1 equals day 7 dash, and then we can't forget the double parentheses. Close it up. And that gives us our 100. All right, so we've, over these past 5 streams, we've went through each and every one. At this point, we'll be reviewing each and then just practicing the skills. That's going to be the biggest thing, practicing the skills in the software and doing the practice tests until we schedule the test. So let's see what happens. As always, real talk, real people, keep it real, and be safe out there.